Hello and welcome to HT's weekly talk show, The Interview, and our special segment, Coffee on Sunday. Given that I knew his father, senior politician Milind Deora, rather well, my first thought at Milind quitting the Congress was, how would his father have reacted? Milind made news in 2004 when he was elected to the Lok Sabha. 2 decades later, the spotlight is on him yet again, this time for ending a 55-year relationship with the party his father remained loyal to. Politics apart, Milind is a blues guitarist. His stage name, MD Mississippi. If industrialist Anand Mahendra calls him a cool musician, actor Abhishek Bachchan said he was inspired by Milind, the politician. Milind Deora, the politician, the musician, and the performer, with us in this edition of Coffee on Sunday. Welcome to the show, Milind Deora, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now that the dust has settled, let me ask you, were your father alive, would he have let you snap a 55-year relationship with the Congress?
Now I don't want to look towards the past. I've made a decision. I have severed my professional ties with a party that essentially my father started out with. I grew up in a Congress home. I joined the party formally in 2004. What I would say is that from what I've heard from my father and what I saw him during his early days as a politician when I was very young, our politics was always and has always remained very constructive. It's always remained very solution-oriented. It's always remained about taking Mumbai, Maharashtra, and India forward. I think for me to be able to contribute meaningfully was my biggest reason for wanting to leave the Congress. I think that oppositions have a role to play in criticizing governments, but offering constructive suggestions is a very critical part of an opposition strategy. And I felt that I was unable to do that. So to answer your question, I do believe I have my father's blessings, and I do believe my father would have appreciated my decision to move to a system where I'm given more freedom and ability to work constructively towards the betterment of Mumbai, Maharashtra, and India.
From what you're saying, I get a sense that the Congress seems to have deviated from the path it followed when your father was there.
Look, again, I don't want to get into what is wrong with the Congress. It's not a secret that there is a problem with that party. If there wasn't, the party would not be in the position they're in today. So as I said, I want to look towards the future. I no longer want to be critical or offer suggestions to the Congress party. I tried to do that when I was in the party. And I wish them well. I hope that they can work towards becoming a constructive opposition.
You're on record to state that it was a difficult decision and an emotional moment. Take me through both.
Well, it's emotional because, in life, any decision where you are stepping out of your comfort zone is a difficult decision. It's emotional because as I said, I grew up in a Congress family, and we grew up hearing stories of my late father's association with Indira Gandhi ji, and how her leadership propelled him, motivated him, inspired him to enter public life. So in that sense, it is an emotional decision. It's an emotional decision because you leave behind a lot of friends, a lot of colleagues, a lot of leaders, a lot of activists and karyakartas who you've been directly associated with for 2 decades. But sometimes you have to define and revisit what your purpose in a particular profession is. And it was very hard for me to do that. But I had to reflect very deeply as to why did I enter politics in the first place. And I had to go back to the days before 2004 when I entered politics. When I decided to enter politics, my goal was to enter politics for public service, to contribute. And at some level, when you feel that you're unable to do that with the existing platform you're in, for whatever reason, which as I said, I don't want to go into those reasons now, you then have to venture out into an area where it might be away from your comfort zone, but where you feel instinctively that you can contribute better. If I'm unable to contribute, if I'm not given the opportunity to contribute in a particular system, then the whole meaning of politics changes. Then why are you there in the first place? And I had to have that deep introspection and arrive at a decision where I felt that it's critical for me to move on and find a platform that can do this. And I'm happy to say that I did.
You spoke about leaving friends in the Congress. What are your chances of wooing them into the party which you have joined? There are a lot of young people who are frustrated, maybe a strong word, but who are unhappy.
In politics, you have to define what is your purpose. People often criticize that, oh, a particular party has given so much to a particular person, and therefore a person must continue to stay loyal to that party, regardless of whether that party values them in the present moment or not. These are things I don't necessarily agree with, because in every party, for every leader, for every family, this is a two-way street. For instance, in my own case, the party gave my family a lot, but my family gave the party a lot also. We contributed to the party for 55 years. We helped sustain the party during its most challenging periods. Many a times during Indira ji's most challenging phases, during Sonia ji's most challenging phases. You know, when you ask me, are people upset in the Congress and what would I say to them? I don't know. I have a lot of friends who remain in the Congress. There may be people who are very happy. There may be people who are very satisfied. There may be people who feel empowered and motivated. And there could be people who feel very demotivated and very frustrated. My suggestion to them would be to reflect on what their purpose in politics is. I reached a stage where I couldn't see my future as being able to contribute meaningfully towards Mumbai and India. I didn't see my future as being able to do that through the organization that you could say I inherited from my father. I'm not, for example, someone who is interested in power.
You just killed my next question, which is that your critics say you are in this for power and probably a Rajya Sabha, which is being offered or which is part of the deal, which may be a strong word.
If I was in it for power, why would I have spent the most productive years of my life from the age of 37 to 47 in the Congress party during arguably its most challenging decade with no power? Why would I have fought 2 consecutive elections, knowing fully well that there is a wave against the Congress party, knowing fully well that it's highly likely that I would lose? I did that to sacrifice and to strengthen the party. I can sustain for another 10 years without power. I don't care if I'm not in power or if I'm not in parliament or if I'm not in the assembly or I don't have a legislative post. From 2019, I felt that it's time for the Congress to reflect on why it has not been able to grow the party from 2014 to 2019. And that maybe we should stop doubling down on the same strategy. Maybe we should reinvent, go back to our old values. And I didn't see that happening. That's my personal experience. I saw more of doubling down on what I thought was a failed strategy. I felt, for instance, that the Congress has to be careful about who it aligns with. If it sacrifices its values, if it sacrifices its party's base just for power, as for example, what we saw in, let's say, my own state, then those are very risky decisions.
Milind, let me ask you upfront. Wasn't it more about the Congress party surrendering the South Mumbai seat to the alliance partner and also denying you a national role?
Look, again, I'm not in the mood to go back into what happened and what went wrong and what's wrong with the Congress. I've moved on. I haven't, moved on in an acrimonious way. I've moved on in a way that there is a professional block. I need to move on I need to be able to contribute more meaningfully, more constructively. Those were my reasons for wanting to move on.
Okay, let's come to your present. We'll talk about the future a little later, but let's talk about the present. Within hours of your joining the Shiv Sena faction, you flew off to Davos with the Chief Minister, Mr. Eknath Shinde. Were you hand holding him given your connections with the industrialists?
Firstly, Davos is not something which is new to me. It's not an alien place. In 2018, I had arranged and curated and began the process of taking even Rahul Gandhi ji to conferences around the world. Yes, I traveled in my personal capacity. It just happens that Davos began a few days after I joined the party. But yes, if I could help convince a business group, whether Indian or foreign, multinational or Indian, that are looking at India to say, please come to Maharashtra. If I could put them before the chief minister and his economic team and try to sort out certain issues that would enable them to come to Maharashtra, to put more money into Maharashtra, to grow the state's economy, to create more employment here, I'm very happy to do that. And to be very honest with you, I would do that, and I've been doing that even as a member of the opposition. If I would go to global conferences and people would talk to me about investing in India, I would never tell them privately that don't come to India, that I have a difference of opinions I'm from a different political party than the ruling establishment, and therefore India is bad. I would never do that. In my opinion, that's an anti-national thing to do. So to answer your question, Kumkum, yes, if I can be of help, I will continue to be of help.
Okay. Would it be right to say that you will soon be Shinde faction's quote unquote, the much needed Delhi face?
These narratives and these kind of brand ideas I leave to the media and to the political circles. To me, I've always tried to be, my family has always tried to be a very important face for Mumbai and Delhi. And when I say an important face for Mumbai and Delhi, it can mean trying to get a critical infrastructure or affordable housing project cleared from the government of India. Let's say it's or a Navi Mumbai airport project. It can mean to represent Mumbai as the economic nerve center in Delhi. So I will continue to fulfill that role. Mr. Shinde understands the value I bring to the table. He understands my background. He understands my skill sets. He understands my talent. I appreciate him for that. And he was very clear in that he wants me to help him restore Mumbai's, if you want to call it, lost shine and glory. He's very clear that he wants me to help him bring more investment to Maharashtra. He has a very clear vision for what he wants to do in this state.
While on Mr. Shinde, he said your joining is just a trailer and the complete picture is yet to come. Picture abhi baki hai is what he said. What has he promised you? And I'm not going to use the word deal at all.
Well, firstly, even if there was a deal, as you call it, or if you say
I haven't said that.
No, I'm saying even if you were to say that, and you earlier did say a deal, and if you were to say what did he promise you, even if there were promises made or there was a deal, firstly, I'm not going to articulate it in public. But what I can say is very clearly, he gave me respect. He understood the value I bring to the table. He understood, as I said, my skill set, my talent, and he felt that he can utilize it to a stage where it can benefit the people of Mumbai and Maharashtra. To me, that's music to my ears. And I've not heard that for a long time. I genuinely have not heard that coming from a political leader in a long time.
You said, I want to strengthen Prime Minister Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah's hands through the Shiv Sena. Why the Shinde Sena and not joining BJP directly?
Well, again, these are now decisions I don't want to put out in the public domain. Things happen sometimes. It's the right time, the right place, the right man, the right individual, the right mindset. You can't plan these things. I genuinely believe that the Prime Minister is punching way above India's weight in many areas. I genuinely believe that the Prime Minister and the Chief Minister are punching above India and Maharashtra's weight economically. in terms of foreign policy, in terms of the infrastructure rollout. And all of these are constructive agendas that define my politics. It's refreshing for India, to be honest, that we have a prime minister and we have a chief minister in Maharashtra who come from extremely humble backgrounds, who come from backgrounds where they could never have aspired to become chief minister and prime minister. I mean, somebody who was selling tea on a railway track, somebody who was driving an auto rickshaw. They are today the leaders of the country and the leaders of the second largest state in the country.
Milind, while you say that, isn't in one sense you are alien to those kind of backgrounds and somewhat disconnected, considering you came from an affluent background, you were son of a rich father, a prosperous family. So where do the two meet?
It doesn't matter because I come from a political background. I don't want to see India move to a system where the most common person can aspire to become the chief minister or the prime minister of their state or the country.
Going forward, is your focus Maharashtra or playing a national role that you've been talking about even while in the Congress, where of course it didn't happen?
Of course, I have national aspirations. Of course, I want to contribute at a national stage. How will that play out? How will a role be carved out for me going forward? Only time will tell. But even if there's a role which is largely national in nature, it doesn't mean I will ignore Mumbai. Even if there's a role which is largely Mumbai in nature, doesn't mean I will ignore national issues. I still want to comment on national issues. I will continue to want to be Mumbai's voice in Delhi. How that takes shape, how that fructifies, time will tell.
Milind, let me ask you about the timing of your quitting the Congress. It somehow coincided with Rahul Gandhi launching his Bharat Jodo Yatra.
No, it had nothing to do with that. Sometimes people are unaware of our culture, certain aspects of our culture, but Makar Sankranti is a very powerful, important day, especially in Maharashtra. New beginnings always happen on that day. Somebody wants to buy a two-wheeler, they buy it on Makar Sankranti. They don't buy it during Shraddh. Somebody wants to buy a home, they don't do it during Shraddh. Again, I don't want to score a political point, but I wish those who think those things and make political statements like that, I wish them my best.
Despite my saying I won't, I will ask you one or two questions about the Congress. And I'm not going to discuss the Mumbai South seat. But let me ask you, who was the problem? Was it Sonia Gandhi or Rahul?
Again, I would rather not get into this. I've moved on. I don't have any ill feelings. To me, it was very clear that Congress has moved in a different direction. That's one aspect. The second aspect is organizationally. To me, what I saw of Congress organizationally as a child growing up and when I entered in 2004, there was a certain approach towards dealing with the organization, dealing with people. Again, I saw a deviation in the way Congress dealt with people. Now, who is responsible? What changed? Why it changed? Again, these are things I leave to you to determine. The fact remains that there are certain problems within the party. There's no question about that. This is not some rocket science or some secret that I'm divulging. This is very clear before the public of India.
I'm going to keep my word and not discuss the Congress anymore. But 2004, when you were going to Parliament as an MP for the first time, you told your father, who was then a five-termer, "Oh, you are coming to Parliament," rendering him kind of speechless, and he said he thinks he is the only MP in the family. Tell me about that.
The first thing that struck me when I entered the House was that there's no other physical place on earth where you get to see India's diversity in its fullest, most beautiful form. People wearing different dresses, different outfits, different headgears.
Yes, but what about asking your father, you're coming to Parliament, and he's saying he thinks he's the only MP in the family?
Well, I mean, those were sort of, those were things which once in a while we would joke with one another. But I think that there were many moments where I think he felt very proud when I became a minister. I'm only glad that I had a very good role model in him. I had a very good teacher in him.
Milind, at another level, introduce me to MD Mississippi.
That's a sort of, it's an alias, if you will. It's a musical alias that. So Anand Mahindra, who obviously runs Mahindra Motors, he has put together a very interesting music festival in Mumbai. In India, almost it's over a decade ago now.
And used your talent as a blues guitarist.
Anand's been very kind to invite me to perform at the festival several times. At that point, it was a friend of mine, an American musician, who coined the term, an alias called MD Mississippi, which is what we use when we perform. So that's what that's about.
Don't you think you are, quote unquote, born for the stage, considering you have shared space with singer Sharon Prabhakar and also inspired actor Abhishek Bachchan?
I've been deeply into music. I continue to remain very deeply drawn to music. I'm very encyclopedic about music. But it was a very early age in life, maybe at the age of 16 or 17, when I realized that, I thought I was a very good musician and I potentially had a career in music. But it didn't take me too long to meet musicians and realize that I'm very, very far behind in their profession. So I've chosen a different stage, if you will. It's not a musical stage. It's not an artistic stage. It's a political stage.
Sharon Prabhakar and Abhishek Bachchan?
I've had the pleasure to share stages with a lot of influential people who've moved me in my life and motivated me in my life musically as well. Abhishek, I remember when he made the movie Pa, he mentioned that his character was inspired by me. If I've been able to motivate someone, inspire someone, that's something I'm very lucky and fortunate to have been able to do.
Finally, is it true that you downplay your being a musician for fear of it interfering with your image as a serious, quote unquote, serious public servant?
I don't downplay it, but I don't want. I think music for me is a very private aspect of my life. Music is for me is like meditation. It's like when I meditate. I don't need to talk about what kind of meditation I do. I don't need to talk about my musical. I don't do it necessarily for public consumption. It's a private aspect of my life. Every once in a while, I get the opportunity to perform in public. Yes, I do debate sometimes. Is it something I should do, shouldn't do? But it's a private aspect of my life. It's not so much of whether it will affect my career or not. It's more out of, there are some things when you're in public life and when you're in politics that I think every politician must keep private. And for me, music is that thing which I hold very close to my heart, and which keeps me sane. It keeps me grounded. It reminds me about what I truly love in life. And so it's very important that that aspect of my life does not get corrupted by being put into the public. And I think in a profession, Kumkum, like politics, which is so dog eat dog, it's so aggressive, it's so personalized nowadays. I think it's important to have aspects that only stay limited to your personal life.
Milind Deora, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. And thank you for taking the questions on the Congress despite my promise of not treading that path.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.